Hey everybody, this is Don and Dan coming to you from The Clinical Trials Guru. Again, that website is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Today we have the pleasure to be speaking with Mr. Carlton Hoyt out of Greater New York area. And Carlton is an owner in a consulting company by the name of BioBM Consultants. And what we're going to do is turn this over to Carlton and let Carlton explain a little bit to us who he is, as well as who BioBM Consultants are. Hi, Carlton. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
You're welcome.
So a little bit about myself. I actually, oddly enough, when I did my PhD at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, I studied systems neuroscience, and I had always wanted to go into clinical trials. I wanted, hope to get a job as a CRA and eventually a clinical scientist. And it was a very difficult field to break into without a clinical degree. And that kind of led to my moving, really by chance, into marketing for life science tools. And I had the pleasure of working with a small company soon after I graduated that I worked with for a while that really had 13 people working there, give or take. Mm-hmm. And all but 2 were mechanical people. There's me and one other scientist, and then everyone else did engineering, assembly, something. So it gave me the opportunity to do a lot of different things, a lot of business development, marketing, technical support, sales, whole gamut of things. And I found it really interesting, and that is what led me with some other people to found BioBM Consulting, which is a firm that provides business marketing and internet marketing services to small life science research tools companies. The idea is that market's relatively underserved. They normally don't have a very large budget. They don't have a lot of money to spend on things like marketing or business consulting. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the firms out there charge very high fees and aren't particularly hands-on. So we try to really ingrain ourselves in our clients' processes to provide them with skills that they might not have otherwise and can't really afford to bring on internally.
Okay. Carlton, who would be your clientele?
My clientele would be anyone selling tools and services to researchers, be them in academia, pharma, biotech, whatever. So laboratory equipment companies making cell culture products, reagents, chemicals, antibodies, proteins, software companies that make software for life science research, distributors even, things like that.
So basically any company that's providing support in the arena of research?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Okay. Are you working with some of the big companies, let's say like United Biosource, companies like that do a lot of the ratings and provide a lot of the training and the testing and stuff like that?
Generally not. We normally focus on smaller companies. Our target market are companies that have 50 employees or less. Okay. Those are normally the ones that will have the gaps in skills. The larger companies will normally they'll be able to bring on internally all the different skill sets that they need, and just the way that we operate isn't necessarily conducive to working with larger clientele. We do get approached by larger clients sometimes on certain types of engagements. Normally, that's more of a strict consulting relationship. Okay. We again try to more ingrain ourselves into the processes of our clients. That's what we really specialize in doing. We kind of act on behalf of our clients to provide them with services that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to have themselves.
All right. I'm going to back up a little bit. As a PhD scientist, what type of work were you doing?
Sure. I'd say I'm a systems neuroscientist, and generally that's true. I did a lot of different projects when I was in graduate school. I kind of did a non-standard PhD in that sense. Mm-hmm. My original project that I was working on was detecting catecholamines in the zebrafish retina. We were doing work on the enzyme pyrosinase, which my PI had done a lot of work on when he was a postdoc. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to detect dopamine and L-DOPA levels in the zebrafish retina, we found that our assay just wasn't sensitive enough to get the job done. Unfortunately, there was too much variability and too little sensitivity. And really, we were limited by the technology. We just didn't have the massive amount of money that it would have taken to move up to the next level of equipment.
Okay.
So that got dropped, and I kind of branched out into multiple things. What the bulk of my thesis eventually was on was studying this protein AHI1 in mouse retina. AHI1, if it's mutated in humans, causes the neurological disorder Joubert syndrome. It's a very rare neurological disorder that's completely debilitating. And there was it's a ciliopathy, and I studied how that affects the mouse retina and classified the degradation of the retina and looked a little bit into the function of the protein within the retina. And the other aspect, the other major aspect of my thesis was developing and testing an assay to use zebrafish as a method for high throughput screening for substances in cardiovascular testing.
Now, and you did explain a little bit of this on a surface about how you made your transition from working as a scientist and developing this company that you and others have put together in order to service, again, all these different research service companies or support companies out there. But what prompted you, what brought the idea that you guys could make that, or you yourself make that transition into this area, so other people who might be out there who are looking to expand what they're doing might be motivated to go into other areas other than where they're sitting, because obviously you did.
Yeah, well, one thing that I gripe about, a lot of people gripe about this, is that I think that graduate school doesn't adequately prepare you for the realities outside of academia. If you're going to, academia really prepares you when you're in graduate school to do a postdoc and then become a professor. If you want to do something else, you're kind of left to fend for yourself a little bit. I knew that I never wanted to go, stay in academia. I had no intentions of doing an academic postdoc. I did not want to be a professor. So I knew that I wanted to do something that was more closely related to something that, affects human health. I like things that have a practical effect on things. And I felt that basic research, didn't really have that kind of tangible end game. There's a lot of things where you're researching things for the sake of researching things in the hopes that they will, add to a body of knowledge which overall will aid human health. But that's a pretty far out goal. I wanted something that was more here and now, which is why I went to clinical research, because that's kind of the last stage where, science affects human health. Really, my transition to marketing and business development was almost accidental. I always knew I was, a dollars and cents guy. I like things that have tangible business results. I was always interested in business. I watched a lot of CNBC when I was in high school. I don't know if that makes me weird, but so I kind of just gravitated to it. And then when I had the opportunity, it just stuck. I realized that it was a good fit for my personality, I suppose.
Yeah, Carlton, I'm glad you brought up marketing, because I'm on your blog, BioBM Consulting. He's got a great blog there. I didn't realize you wrote, number one, so many posts, and number two, they're very good, actually.
Thank you. Yeah, we do a lot of content marketing ourselves, and we try to write at least one blog post a week. And, we try to keep the content fresh. We repeat ourselves very infrequently.
Right, and now I'm noticing many of the posts are about marketing and branding yourself, and even a lot of social media advice. What are you trying to teach your clients? Like, most of your clients would be service providers in the life science industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many of them involved in clinical trials in one way or another. So what are you trying to teach them as far? How does a life science company use marketing? Is it primarily for business development, B2B type stuff?
Well, selling to scientists is an interesting thing because in one way it's a mass market because there's a lot of individuals making decisions. A lot of the purchasing decisions, and this isn't universally true, I should back up a little bit from that. Some things are very, B2B consultative type sales. If you're selling someone, an NMR spectrometer, that's a $10 million sale. That's a large organizational decision. A lot of the day-to-day purchasing decisions are actually more consumer-type decisions. What type of agarose you buy. There's no big consultation on that. Somebody says, hey, we need some agarose. Oh, what type of agarose would you buy? It's kind of an off-the-cuff thing. Like if you were going to go into the store and pick a deodorant or something like that. Now, scientists have a different mentality. They think a little bit differently than the average consumer does. But basically, what we're trying to do in our blog is just bring up different things that individuals in a smaller life science company just might not think about. Bring up issues that say, hey, this is, this could be important to your business. You should be thinking about this. But if you're only 10 people, there's a limited amount of time that 10 people have to think about all these different things. So we're just trying to bring things forward to allow people to create better business processes, to be more creative in their marketing, and things like that.
And I noticed that some of your clients would be CROs, very small CROs.
Yeah, small CROs that would, again, mostly providing service on the research side, not on the clinical side.
Right. And how are they doing in this economic environment? I know in our industry there's a lot of consolidation going on. How are those smaller CROs doing?
I'm more in touch with the actual, products providers than the services providers. From what I do, what I can feel out about the smaller CROs is, they seem to be doing okay. The same with the current market and with current R&D spending and everything like that. And this is pretty much true for anyone who's reliant on, pharmaceutical R&D spending, academic R&D spending, is that R&D spending isn't really contracting. It doesn't contract in response to the general economy, at least not as much. So R&D spending isn't really top priority for a lot of governments to cut. The NIH budget's being cut pretty marginally compared to all the other budgets out there, aside from big defense, which seems to always be going up. The pharmaceutical companies aren't really cutting back that hard on R&D. They seem to have been spending about 15% of their revenues on R&D pretty steadily throughout the course of history. Mm-hmm. And, their sales are still going up. They're still projected to go up by, I think, about 4% a year for the next 10 years. So because of that, there's still plenty of money out there to do this research. So, whether you're, a large, provider of laboratory instrumentation, a mid-sized CRO, a small cell culture company, whatever, there's room out there for growth. It's just a matter of how they do it. Obviously, if you have a large market share and the market contracts a little bit, that still puts a lot of pressure on you because your investors want to see growth. They don't want to see a slight contraction. A slight contraction might be what the market calls for, and then the job of those companies is to find ways to kind of adapt around that contraction and squeeze out some growth.
Mm-hmm. And you work with these small life science companies, and a lot of our audience members, there are some from CROs and some small life science companies, such as CROs, that provide services in the industry. Since you work with so many of these clients, how does one decide to one day start a life sciences company? Is it just a passion that they have? Do they see an opportunity in that space? How do these companies usually come about? And are they venture capital funded or are they self-funded?
I think that the cost of entering the market is substantial enough in the life sciences that you pretty much have to be venture capital funded, unless you have just come out of, from a very high level position in a large company where, you've been pretty bankrolled your whole life. That is the exception. But you almost need venture capital. I know companies that started with, $30,000 or $40,000 of venture capital. You still need it usually, because there are a lot of people out there who can just whip $50,000 out of their pocket to, bring forward a, small idea. That said, there are a lot of companies that are founded off of technology. That's a big driver for new corporations in the sector. There are some that just see an opportunity that might not necessarily be technology driven. They can think of a product, or they just have an idea that says this could be done better. I do this all the time, and I wish there was a company or a service that could provide X. So they say, well, hey, why don't I go out and do that? But the main driver is definitely technology.
Okay. Yeah, and I was going to ask you, because I'm going through your blog here, a lot of these life science companies that you work with, they're all B2B companies, right? They don't market directly to consumers.
No, that's not necessarily true. A lot of marketing in life science products is directly to consumers, because who are your consumers? Your consumers are the scientists. And the scientists are the ones that are reading the journals that they're marketing in. They're the ones that are going to the websites that they're marketing on.
I see. So in many cases,
there's a lot of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. So in many cases, if I own a small life science company, I should be thinking of my customers as people, not as other companies, even though they may be affiliated with large institutions and large organizations. They're still individuals that search Google and search different blogs and see what's out there, and then they may come across one of these life science companies' blog or website, and then get interested that way.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And again, the degree to which it's true depends on the type of product. If it's a smaller value purchase, then generally that's very true. If it's a larger, a larger purchase, if it's being sold to like a core facility or something like that acts more organizationally rather than individually or on a lab basis, then yes, it's going to be more similar to a B2B scale. But a lot of people say, is marketing in the life sciences or is sales in the life science, really a B2B or a B2C endeavor? And I don't think it has to be one or the other. There's a lot of gray area in between, and a lot of where your success.
We have lost Carlton. We will call him back.
Did you want to stop that video?
Nah, it's still going. I'll just leave it this way.
Okay.
Thanks for staying tuned, folks. This is live and unscripted. And Don could sing you a song. We have some time, man.
You want me to sing a song?
Yeah,
sing me on the spot. Though.
Sing the Clinical Trial Guru theme song. Nah, you don't have to, Don.
All right, see, now he's pushing my ego here. He's going to have me singing in a minute.
He's working on it. Carlton.
Are we calling him or is he calling us?
I'm calling him.
Okay.
Maybe he lost internet connection.
Could have. But it's pretty interesting stuff here. Yeah, I find it interesting when I see a clinician that goes over into the business like this, because a lot of times there's not always that good mix there.
Hello, Carlton.
Sorry, we seem to have cut out. I don't know if that was your internet or mine. Sorry about that.
No problem. We were just talking, filling in the space here. Don was about to sing a song.
So to finish up the last statement that I was making, a lot of what you need to do in marketing, sales, and life sciences is determine where on that kind of gray scale you fall between business to business and business to customer.
Well, one of the things, just looking at your CV, you've got some sales in your background, so it's all, and then plus your desire to move further along than where you were at as in the sciences was almost a natural fit for you.
To an extent. Admittedly, I make a decent salesman. I'll, toot my own horn in that regard. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of doing sales, particularly outside sales, but I'm okay at it.
Yeah, but I think it helps when you develop in your business because you have to sell your service, your product. You have to sell yourself, especially as a consultant. No matter how great of a product you have, how smart you are about what you do, you still have to sell that service to someone for them to give you a try. So I think it helps.
Yeah, you definitely need the mentality.
Yeah, and that's spoken from a salesman. So,
Carlton, you have this blog post entitled "Why Are You Marketing?" And you start off, one of the worst things you can do in life science marketing is not fully understanding why you're marketing. Can you expand on that, please?
Yeah, sure. Basically, I feel like a lot of marketing isn't necessarily thought through. That a lot of individuals, a lot of small companies just market because that's what you do. They just accept it as a reality. Oh, well, we need to do some marketing to garner some business. But that's not sufficient. You can't just say, well, we need to do some marketing. Let's, throw out some marketing dollars out there, do a little research and, post up some ads. You really need to understand why you're marketing. And what I mean by that is, understanding what are the goals. What are you trying to achieve? Who are you going to be marketing to? What is going to be the purpose of any individual piece of marketing literature? And, who is that targeted to? What are you trying, is that trying to improve your branding? Are you trying to improve your product awareness? Are you trying to gather leads? Marketing serves many, many purposes. Mm-hmm. It's not just, a simple matter of, well, let's market so we can get some business. So you really have to think about what you're doing. And you should have, some strategy in place and understand what an individual act of marketing or how it fits into that strategy.
Very well put.
Do you advise your clients that you work with to blog and be engaged in social media, or is that something that is not appropriate for everyone?
It's not appropriate for everyone. Because we deal with a lot of small companies, and some of the companies that we work with are genuinely tiny. I'm talking about a handful of employees.
Oh.
When you have that small of an organization, it becomes a matter of, well, where is your time best spent? Because you really are time limited, and your budget limited too for a lot of these companies. So, for them, does it make sense? Content marketing takes a good amount of time. If that's not really going to be what's driving their business short term, if they need to really generate a lot of revenue, then that might not be the way for them to go. Social media and content marketing are generally things that strengthen your brand. They promote brand awareness more than they generate short-term demand. So if a company really needs short-term demand, I'm not going to go recommend social media to them. That said, if they're looking for new ways to reach audiences and they feel that their marketing is kind of stagnating, if they just want ways to engage a broader customer base that, they aren't really leveraging yet, then yeah, social media is great for all those things.
Okay. And you also talk about the fact that is SMM, is that
social media marketing.
Okay, so you have a blog post that says social media marketing isn't free. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that is exactly what I'm referring to. So a lot of people, a lot of heads of marketing departments, corporate executives, they kind of just take social media for granted. They think, oh well, it doesn't cost us anything. Let's hop on there. But it does cost you something. It costs the time that the time of your employees. You really should develop out your platform to project your brand in, a positive and meaningful manner. You want to develop strategies to engage your audience. You want to, deliver promotions. You want to deliver content, and then you're going to need to, generate that content. That content's not going to be free to generate. That's going to take time and or money. So, there are a lot of ancillary things that you need to do. It's not just a matter of, well, I signed up for a Facebook account, let me throw up a page. People seem to think it's more simple than it really should be.
Carl, this is Don. I'm still looking at your page here under your summary. You've listed SEO and SMM, which you just clarified what that is. Is PR? Is that public relations?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as a company, one of the clients for you, how would public relations? How would that fit into what I'm doing?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Okay, I'm a small CRO, and obviously my clients are sponsors and also the investigational sites. How would PR benefit me?
Well, the way that we approach PR, and this should come with an asterisk. There are a lot of aspects of PR that we don't handle. There are a lot of things that you would want PR for. We don't do like crisis management or anything like that. Our sense of PR is just well, you're a company. You want to create buzz for yourself. You want public awareness. And just taking what you're doing, forming newsworthy content about what you're doing, and delivering that to relevant outlets. If you're a CRO, there are going to be publications that your sponsors are going to be reading. There are going to be websites that they're visiting. You want to know where your audience is looking, and you want to make sure that you have a presence there.
Okay.
And one way of doing it is by delivering news. And the great thing about news is that it's not marketing, because a lot of people they see marketing communications and they're like, oh, this is an advertisement. I don't need to look at that. You don't think about that consciously, but subconsciously, little flashy ads on the side, you just don't look at them. When it's news, you think, oh, this is something that's going on. Maybe I should know about this. So it's really to be a very high value way of just raising awareness for something else.
Now, Carlton, as we begin to wrap up here, in this industry, in the life science industry, there seems to be a handful of companies that do extremely well, and then kind of like everyone else who's just making it, just getting by. Do you see that that's the case, or do you see a lot of small successes that we just don't hear about?
I see that there are a lot of small successes that become large established companies through acquisition. A lot of times the very interesting, the really successful ones get scooped up.
So consolidation, a lot of consolidation.
Yeah, it's consolidation. I think is really why that seems to be the case more than it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
That said, there are a lot of small to mid-sized successful players in the life sciences. There are a lot of companies that are being generated around new technologies all the time, and I'm very thankful for that, because a lot of those become our clients. That's our prime market right there. But there's always going to be research being done. There's always going to be new technology being developed, and a lot of these are being developed in academic and government environments where they're not immediately going to be turned around and used by a major established company necessarily. Some of them will be, some of them will be licensed out, but a lot of those are also going to be spun out into companies. And so long as there is publicly funded research, as there is research funded by independent organizations, nonprofit organizations, things like that, there's going to be a lot of new companies starting up in the life sciences, both in tools, in pharma, and in biotech.
Mm-hmm.
Quite interesting.
What are your thoughts, Carlton, on outsourcing, things being done overseas, specifically India, China, in this industry? What are your thoughts on that, and are your clients worried?
My clients aren't necessarily worried about that. I think to some extent that my clients, if anything, are the ones that are leveraging that. Because a lot of my clients are the manufacturers.
Okay.
They're the ones that benefit from lower cost overseas manufacturing, low-cost overseas labor. I don't think that there is a lot of outsourcing in support, as you see in a lot of other industries. Support seems to be staying here. There is just, I guess, a standard that's an unspoken standard that U.S. researchers want to talk to scientists in the U.S. They have yet to speak to a technical support individual in India, which is kind of interesting because if you think about it, a lot of contract research is going over to India because it's cheaper to do research there. Scientists come cheaper there. They're perfectly capable of doing support as well, but you really don't see that. And to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure why that is. I suppose it's just some unspoken standard. As far as broader R&D goes, I don't think that a ton of it is going to be moved offshore anytime in the immediate future. I think that everything eventually will balance. Globalization is a reality. Mm-hmm. Anywhere where there's a low pressure zone, a high pressure zone is going to come and fill that in. That's just how global economics is going to work in a more interconnected economy. I don't think that's necessarily anything that we should worry about. I think that in the long term, it's going to be good for everyone because as those areas grow, they also become new markets, and that's good for everybody.
Excellent. Don, first of all, Carlton, thank you for sharing this stuff. A lot of our audience members are in the life science industries. This blog is for the research participants as well as the people working inside the industry, which would be your clients, or organizations similar to your clients. So we thank you for sharing this information. And Don, you have anything else to add?
I think for the general public, I know some of the dialogue was more geared towards industry standard, but I think it also gives the general public a little insight on how things operate, because I think the public is not aware of how much is involved in this whole arena of research and in the whole science of developing medications and different therapies and products for medical needs. I'm fine, Carl. We really appreciate you coming on. This is quite interesting. You're a quite interesting gentleman. I'd like to have you on again in the near future.
Thank you. I appreciate it greatly, and thanks for having me. I'd love to be on again. Just let me know. All
right. If I can give your, if anyone wants to contact you, may I give out your email address here? I want to say Carlton. Again, this is Carlton Hoyt with BioBM Consultants. And if you want to reach Carlton, you may reach him at Carlton.Hoyt, that's CARLTON .HOYT at biobm.com.
Yep, and my phone number is 313-312-4626. If anybody wants to get me on the horn, I'm happy to hear you.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlton.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Carlton. And this is Dan and Don signing off from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thanks a lot.